Welcome to another episode of the House Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwarz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Welcome in to episode 23. Michael Jordan?
Devin Hester.
I know.
Put him in the hall.
He should be in the Hall of Fame, but that's a
different episode.
Totally different episode. But episode 23 of the House Huddle Podcast. As always, I'm Rob Schwarz, joined with my co-host and really good friend, Justin Onayemi.
Yeah, Justin Onayemi here. We're going to talk about the Bears' loss to the Atlanta Falcons. And I feel like we can just keep saying Bears lost to and fill in the blank.
So last week, they went from 16th to 6th in the draft pick order. Now they go from 6th to 3rd, and it would have been 4th if the Raiders had lost.
Raiders win, baby!
Yeah.
Well, and, here's the other thing. There are a lot of bad teams in the NFL, and I feel like the Bears are losing to some of them, which makes me feel like then they're going to not have the tiebreaker for the draft slot. Because some of these other teams are going to... Well, now Washington's actually starting to win some games.
Yes,
They're 6-5, I want to say.
Sounds about right.
So their loss to them doesn't look as bad, but
Right.
It was bad. This loss today, I think it was pretty bad. We're going to get into it.
This, what, 3 in a row now?
4.
Is it 4?
They beat New England, and then I don't think they've won anything since.
That's right. Dallas,
Miami.
Miami.
We don't feel that bad that we got blown out by 20.
Right.
Miami, we lose at home, but hey, whatever.
Had a chance to win. Only lost by 3.
Lost to Detroit, and then now you lose to Atlanta.
Although Detroit did just dominate the Giants today.
Yeah, actually,
right?
Detroit's on a bit of a run now.
Yeah, maybe I was wrong about Dan Campbell after all.
Well, I'd like to talk about what we were right and wrong about with this Bears team. I think you, especially after a game like this, could really let the emotion get going on you, I think. And so we're going to try to harness that a little bit by structuring our conversation, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
But I know I wrote out my list, and then you said yours was heavy in certain areas. So
I mean, I know I'm going to end up being a lot more negative about this. I could tell based on the text conversation that you and I were having with Bob Weiss.
Yeah.
I was definitely more on the negative side.
Well, and we said we sometimes do shows, we wait a little, sometimes these are immediate reactions. This is Sunday night.
Sunday night, only a few hours.
A few hours removed from the game. So, well, you want to start with just a general thing, and then we go to the
okay,
good,
so
bad,
here's my general thing. Just win the fucking game, all right? We're going to get the explicit version tonight.
Okay.
Win the fucking game. It's not that hard. You've had 3 in a row now that you've had opportunities to win these games. Miami, Detroit, and now tonight. And you can't put the game away. And there's many reasons why. Many reasons why. Those are going to come up in my bad and my ugly, I guarantee it. But just the problem is that this is a young team. I know it's a rebuilding year. I shouldn't be this upset outside of the fact that I'm not going to hit my bet.
Yeah, that's gone.
They got 6 games left. They have to win 4 out of 6. I don't see it happening. So, whatever. That totally aside. I knew that it was going to be a rebuilding year. I shouldn't be this upset about the fact that they're going to get the 3rd overall pick. But here I am defending them all offseason. There's no way they're only going to win 3 games. There's no way they're going to have the 1st overall pick. And look at where it's trending.
I mean, I thought where you were going was you still want young players to feel what a win feels like or what it is to close out a game.
Losing can be contagious.
You're right. But then last week's episode, we were just talking about how nearly half this roster won't be on the team next year.
Right.
So
there are some very
both sides of
key youngsters that will be for years to come,
and
hopefully.
I think when you're young on a team that blatantly is rebuilding, your team results are going to be bad. I guess it's what you and I didn't take into account enough when we tried to make our predictions, because we can still sit here and say, oh, they could have won this game. They should have won that game. But I shouldn't say this. Most NFL games really do come down to just a few plays here, a few plays there. The better team, the better coach team, the luckier team, someone's going to win all these games. But inevitably, it looks like the way this roster is constituted, they're losing all of these games.
Yeah.
They're finding ways to lose each and every game. And it's going to come out when we go into our stuff. So,
yeah, so here we go. Bears lose to the Atlanta Falcons 27-24. Very close game. Tied at halftime, 17-17. Almost tied at the end of the third quarter. I think it carried into the fourth a little, if I remember correctly.
So on the broadcast, they said this was the first game all season, I think, that the Bears didn't score in the third quarter.
Oh, wow. That sounds about right, because they've had a good third
yes,
quarter.
We've been talking about adjustments, mostly on the defense, but offensively and defensively throughout the year have been good. And it said something like snapped the longest active streak. So if you're, having a longer streak than Kansas City, the Bills, so I'd have to look and see if that's actually what that meant. But that's what it kind of implied. So bad third quarter, though. I think at one point they had run 11 plays for 11 yards or something like that.
It was rough. But the fourth quarter was better.
Your point being the game was winnable.
Yes. And the fourth quarter looked better, which they've, Justin Fields specifically, statistically, has struggled in the fourth quarter. But
certain parts of the fourth quarter looked good. We're going to get into other things.
But here's what happens in the fourth quarter, especially when you're losing or you're only winning by a little bit, is, the defense, they really come at you. And this team can't seem to stop that very well. So clearly in the fourth quarter, there's things that happen, even towards the end of the third quarter, but there's things that happen. It's just kind of very frustrating. And I don't want to get into too many details because it's going to come out in my bad and the ugly. I know it. Let's just dive in. Because honestly,
before we dive in, I got one thing to say. So again, we're shooting this Sunday night. Game just happened a few hours ago. And you, every week, have promised us, although you might get next week off, but you've been doing a Fields-focused episode.
Yeah, and I missed it this week.
No, I'm saying you might get off because who knows if he's even going to play. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves there. But I would like to know, because when you're watching the broadcast edition of the game, first of all, they're not very good at telling you what the heck's going on at times. But some of these times where he's just kind of standing there in the pocket, and there is a pocket because they're blocking, and he's not releasing the ball. And I want to know, and so it's like a preview of your all-22, are guys getting open and he's not pulling the trigger, or is this how bad they are getting separation?
So the last few weeks, it's been a little bit more difficult to tell. One, he's been getting the ball out faster. So there have been plays there. Two, he's making that decision to run right away, where he's not hesitating, and you're seeing it. He's gaining, 140, 180 yards. Even today, he had 82.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a combination of the two. However, today, it sure as hell felt like he was going back to a little bit of those bad habits. I felt like he was holding on to it a little too long. And this is what I said in my text message between you and Bob was look, I can't wait for the all-22 breakdown because you can't tell half the time in the TV broadcast. But when you can see everything up above, it looks a lot different. And I'm going to guess, and I think my comment was doubtful, or no, that was on my Twitter feed. I said doubtful. Are guys open? And I doubt that they are because it consistently hasn't been happening.
So on the game-clinching interception, he did look like he kind of had a happy feet, almost like one of those jump throws that he's done. Now, I actually think he was throwing to Mooney, and Montgomery jumped up and went for it, but it wasn't that good of a throw to Mooney either.
And
if you're throwing to Mooney, lead him to the left.
You're not the first person that has said that, and I know you didn't catch the post-game interview that he put forward, but he did say, could he have just been falling on the sword? I don't know. He did say that he was throwing it to David Montgomery.
Okay.
So I
was going to say it wasn't that good of a throw to Mooney, but Mooney looked like the better option.
Yes, it definitely did. I slowed it down on the condensed play, which is available already. But I slowed it down, and it did. It looked like it would have been better if it was going to Mooney.
So we'll go good, bad, ugly, and I think I'll lead with the good because I don't know that you have too many. Or does that mean you want to lead with your very limited?
I'll lead with my very, very first one. The first one that popped into my head.
All right.
And I felt like I had to throw it out there, despite the one stat that I know people are going to probably hang their hat on. David Montgomery had a decent game.
More than decent.
He only ended up with a 3.9 per carry average, and I know people say anything under 4, blah, blah, blah. But he ran hard. was taking hits, bouncing off guys, fighting for yardage.
He played big in the reception game too.
Yes.
Multiple times.
Yes.
One beautiful one down the sideline.
Oh my.
Great throw and a great catch.
And a great altogether play. The fact that Justin Fields got him to like change his route basically.
Well, I thought he did that to Komet. I thought he was signaling Komet because Komet was kind of hanging in, and then when he did that, Komet went up. But he could have been doing it to either one.
Either way, it ended up being like a wheel route.
Yeah.
And
they're trying to guard him with a defensive end, too.
Yeah, so this is very similar to the play that happened the prior week against Detroit, and he didn't come down with the catch. It was a decent throw. Looked like it could have been a catch, and I still say that there was pass interference. But here nor there. That's a whole nother issue.
So that's a good, because I said, I had this in my notes, too. He can handle a heavy running back one load. We've known this.
Yes.
But people seem to forget it because Khalil Herbert was playing so well.
Correct.
And I think when Khalil Herbert's playing as well as he is, you should be giving him a good number of carries. And they've just been doing that out of necessity to keep both guys going.
Yeah.
But now when they needed Montgomery to have the bigger load, he stepped up.
Yep.
Can I leave you another one then?
Yeah.
How about a guy we just mentioned?
I only have one other one, and it might be where you're going with this.
Okay.
And it's because I have to defend my guy. Cole Kmet, his catch.
That was an amazing catch.
Amazing catch. Justin Fields' throw wasn't good, really. It wasn't bad, but it
let him.
And he put it only where really Kmet could get. But one-handed grab with contact.
Yes.
Like, that is by far the best part of the whole thing.
Yes, because the contact took him in a different direction, and he still kept the ball so cleanly with one hand, and it was a one-handed catch out of necessity.
And he's coming off an injury. I mean, he almost didn't even play in this game.
That contusion.
Right.
So, was that catch better than George Pickens' one-hand catch?
I mean...
Ooh, we said that was the catch of the year already, but...
Well, Mooney already tried to make that.
That's true.
But the way that he laid out how flat he was on, like, above the ground, like, how low, I still give that to Pickens.
That's true. So, I'm glad you got it. So, I had a longer list of goods, and you had both of those, or both of those were on my list. So, because this is the Devin Hester episode, I'm putting in my good the fact that Velus Jones is back as a kick returning threat. I don't know if the string of inactives, I don't know, and I'm assuming you don't, but if it was because of bad practice, I mean, we know the public shame of muffing these punts in big games, but he was inactive, literally inactive. Now he's active, but we didn't know what his role would be. And he snaps off that, 50-something yard kick return?
55, I think, yeah.
I mean, that's a momentum changer. Later in the game, their guy kicked a really low, weird kickoff. I mean, it went through the back of the end, or went through the end zone, but I didn't know if that was them kicking away from him. Maybe you kick out of bounds if you know you got a threat back there. So in honor of Devin Hester, I think there was some good today with Velus Jones in the return game.
Honestly, just to give him some confidence, because that kid needs it.
Absolutely. So another kid, I guess we can call him, Jack Sanborn, stringing together games where he's a difference maker.
Yeah, second in tackles. I think I saw nine tackles for him. Had the fumble recovery, right, on special teams, which that kind of surprises me that he's out there when he's your starting. I mean, he's getting almost 100% of the snaps.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're still using him on special teams. I mean, they had to with Khalil Herbert too.
True. I mean, they're a thin roster. Let's be honest there. So, I have a good. It's me the rest of the way on good.
Yeah, I have nothing else.
I'll go through my list. So here's a quick one, and I'm sorry to say it didn't end well for this guy, but I had Kyler Gordon many times showing up as a good. There was one particular drive where he made back-to-back tackles.
Yep.
One was on Mariota. They said it was a sack, but I don't think it actually was. I think he got right back to the line of scrimmage or maybe a yard. And Mariota is not an easy guy to bring down. I thought the Bears overall did a good job containing him in the rush game. He ran one in, though, I believe.
He did.
And but Kyler Gordon, back-to-back plays. One, he kind of read a wide receiver screen perfectly. And there was another guy coming across, and he picked up the fact that it wasn't going to go to him and just beelined in for the tackle. But then he ended the game injured on the Mariota touchdown.
Yes. Yeah, well, and he had that ticky-tack call, too. The very next series, they called defensive holding, and, like, it was literally just, like, it was a bad call. I mean,
I don't want to become the podcast that complains about the refs. I don't have that much on the refs today.
Okay, so I'll get to them later.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I got 3 more goods.
I told you guys he was going to be the positive one.
We've known this. We've known this in the history of the show. All right, so let me just say 2 of these are pretty quick, and one's a lengthier conversation. So why don't I do the 2 quick ones, lead us into a conversation, and then it's going to be all bad and ugly, and you can take over the show.
Okay.
Although I have plenty of those, too.
All right, good.
All right. So I'm just going to say right off the bat, we don't need to have much conversation on this, but it's been lacking the last few weeks. They did force some turnovers today. Even Patterson had a really good run, and then Brisker from behind popped it out of there.
Yep.
Similar to what Fields did last week, where he made a mistake and then immediately wiped it away. Patterson really did a good job.
I tweeted that out, actually, saying that he was doing his best Justin Fields impression from last week.
I did not even see that tweet.
Yeah, so basically, make the mistake, and then on the very next ensuing drive, boom, touchdown.
That's what big-time players do, and he definitely is one. That wasn't a good, by the way. But
which, it'd be funny, or not funny, it's kind of crappy, because he could have been here had Matt Nagy not used him incorrectly.
Okay, so here's another quick one, and it is a good, although I'm sure there's a way we could kind of twist this, but Fields tied another NFL record today. Did you happen to catch that?
I did not.
So I think it's a good record, but seeing how the game kind of ended, there's a way you could twist it to say maybe this isn't one you really want to go for.
Okay.
But he tied the NFL record. I believe Kyler Murray is the person he tied. 5th consecutive game with 1 or more rushing and 1 or more throwing touchdowns.
I don't see how that's a positive or a negative.
Well, I'm saying the more he's running, the more he opens himself up to be hit. And I think today he took a hit or 2 or 3 too many, and I don't even know if he'll have a chance to extend this record because it says consecutive games. Now, I don't know if he misses a game and then plays. That's
right.
consecutive games for him. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
it's not like a health, thing where you're having consecutive games played.
The Cal Ripken streak or whatever.
Exactly.
Who had the long? Well, we know Favre, but then
Favre.
someone else recently. Stafford had a pretty long streak, I want to say.
I feel like it was a receiver that lost it.
I might have just specifically been talking about quarterbacks, but anyway.
Yeah, for some reason I was thinking it was a receiver, like maybe like a Larry Fitzgerald or something.
Well, I have a cool stat about him. It's not really about him, but there was a list of receivers who we're off track here. Just a bonus tidbit for you listeners. It said receivers who have exactly 7 150-plus yard games.
Okay.
And Larry Fitzgerald was at the top of the list, and he's played don't quote me on this, but let's just say 269 games. Your point being he's been at it a while.
Yes.
Then, oh man, I can't remember who else was on the list, but the point is there were 5 or 6 guys on this list. Larry Fitzgerald played 269 games. Reggie Wayne was on there, 214 games, something like that. And then the list keeps going down, down, down. Devontae Adams is on this list. I don't know how many games. Then the bottom guy on this list, in just 49 games, Justin Jefferson.
Holy cow.
So it's like a great list, though, that you really want to be on. And obviously he's going to have more than 7 when his career's over. So
wow.
Anyway, that was off. Bonus tidbit there. So this is the last good I have.
He's on our fantasy team. That's the real reason why we're excited about it.
We didn't have a great day today.
No.
Neither did anyone on the Vikings. But all right, so this one might lead to a little bit more of a conversation. I have here as a good the Fields to Mooney touchdown. Now, good throw, good route, everything. But play calling, execution.
Yes.
This is one where if you don't do it just right, they actually could call you for offensive pass interference. And I'm sure Falcons fans are screaming at the screen that it was. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Rub route.
ESB.
Yeah, so you want to talk about it a little? Because you didn't have a lot to say in the good segment. I still want to hear you a little.
Yeah, so they kind of had a crossing route. Like their routes crossed.
Take your defender.
Yeah, Mooney's was like a double, though. It was like a give and go.
Came in and then.
Yeah, and then back out. And ESB took his guy to the inside, and they basically, the 3 of them ran into one another, and Mooney was set loose.
Wide open. But great throw. obviously you got to still make the catch. He did.
And he had to make the read, too.
Right.
I mean, I don't even think Mooney was his first read on that play. If I recall, there was a bit of a hesitation by Fields because I don't think that was his first read, but then he saw the play kind of develop.
That would make it even better. So that was my last good. There might have been some other ones in there, but.
So let me go back to my good here for just a second. I know I only had 2. Justin Fields had a lot of good moments.
Yes, he did.
Okay, so all of the good moments can end up on that list. And he is a part of the David Montgomery catch, and he's a part of the Cole Kmet catch. And, he's a part of the fact that he gained 82 yards, had a touchdown through the air, had a touchdown on the ground.
Tied an NFL record.
He deserves that good. The problem is, and here's where we're going to go into the bad, if you're done with your good.
Well, you touched on a little bit. I have an ugly that actually exposes one more hidden good. So we'll get there later.
Okay.
But let's go to the bad.
Shifting from the good to the bad. And we touched on it a little bit in the beginning. He returned to some of the issues that he's had in the past. The holding the ball a little too long. I think in his mind, he's thinking run a little bit too quick. Atlanta was playing the game differently than what they had seen over the last 2-3 weeks. And he still exposed them. 82 yards by a quarterback is a fantastic number for his type of play. I'm not looking for Justin Fields to be a 300-plus passer. If he does end up at that point, that's fantastic. If he has to pass out of the pocket and hit you for 300 yards, he'll do it. And if you're going to try to take the 300 yards away and he'll get, 80 to 100 yards on the ground against you, if he's going to pick you apart that way, I don't have a problem with that. But I don't know. The consistency just wasn't there today.
Fairly early on in the game, I turned to my son and said, I think Justin Fields is going to go over 200 throwing, which, again, that's not like a great watermark, but it just seemed like it was possible. And he missed that deep one to Mooney, which I actually felt like Mooney, at the end, he was sprinting, but there was a part where he stopped sprinting. Yeah. And I don't think he thought it was coming his way. I'm not going to blame him, but that's an open play that between the two of them, and they did all this work in the offseason, and they continue to do all this work throughout the season together, you got to hit that. And how different will your stats be if you hit that? Or the game even?
For sure. And I think I lost my train of thought. I think you see more of the Mooney or the Fields to Mooney connection on the broken plays, right? I know the timing is important and stuff, but you really see it on the broken plays. Even the play where he scrambles and scrambles and scrambles and he's still looking downfield and he tries to kind of do his sidearm motion a little bit. The defender knocked it down, but that was going to Mooney, and it looked like it was going to be a good pass.
Okay. Well, that was a bummer, and I'm just saying when you look at stats, that should have been, I don't know what it would have been, 60-plus yards, and you catch him in stride, and next thing you know, you got another touchdown.
Speaking of stats.
Okay.
Does Justin Fields lead the league in hitting his own lineman in the back of the head?
Or just people in general. He must throw at a low angle or something.
That is part of his mechanics issue that seems to have been corrected for the most part. But again, I think at times it comes back into play. And he's one of those guys who can do the different arm angles. Yeah. We've seen that. And I don't know what he saw. I don't know what he saw there other than hitting Michael Schofield, who honestly could have been pulled for a concussion.
Yeah, that jacked him up, man. That jacked him.
And did he just go downhill after that? I'm wondering. I'm going to have to watch carefully now. Did his game tank after that?
Well, can I just say one of my really quick bads then as well?
Yeah.
That's connected to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was pretty pumped to hear that Jenkins was going to be active today, and then he just sat on the bench.
Yeah.
And so if Schofield was at all shaken, they still didn't feel like Jenkins was a better play.
Yeah, so going back to the post-game interviews, which I know Justin didn't get a chance to listen to, Matt Eberflus was asked about Tevin Jenkins, and he touched on it. And the response was that I guess Jenkins came to them and said, look, I'm still in pain. I'm not 100%. I'm good enough to dress, but I feel like I should be the backup today and not the starter. So he's clearly dealing with pain in that hip injury. I think it's his hip.
I know one of the real bad hits that Fields took, and there were quite a few, came on a play that Schofield got really beat.
The one onto the inside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, Jenkins has scored really well on all sorts of grading that the experts do on how offensive linemen play. I'm not going to pretend like I am an expert at that. And he's been better run blocking than pass blocking, but he's been good at both. The way Fields took hits today, you want your best people out there. Now, again, he wanted to play or could play, but kind of admitting that he wasn't possibly going to be your best option.
Right.
So, I got a quick one here.
Okay.
Maybe it's quick. It appears that Santos' career long is locked in because his career long is 55. He kicked from 56, and it was low the whole time. Like he put as low a trajectory as you could ever attempt in a dome and hit the underside of the crossbar for the miss. But what made it even worse is that was the conclusion of a 10-play, 37-yard drive.
Ooh.
That's literally what I wrote. Ew. I mean, that's not good. It was one of the drives where Claypool touched a ball. So that's another one of my bads.
Was that one?
Claypool, 2 catches for 11 yards on 3 targets.
Yeah, one of them was a nice first down.
Yeah, well, we only have 2 to analyze.
True.
So, I mean, the hope is that you made this mid-season trade. Those didn't used to happen a whole lot. And you would have half a season for him and Fields to develop a chemistry. I don't know if Fields is playing next week. And the way they look so far, not much is happening.
Here's some more fire. I know I brought it a little bit in the beginning. This was honestly borderline ugly for me. It isn't ugly. So we're gonna put an ugly in here because I can't not segue. Okay. I can't not segue to this. If you're going to send a second-round draft pick to another team for a wide receiver, and I have defended it and said, look, if you look at anybody who's in free agency next year, maybe Juju Smith-Schuster outshines Claypool at this point as a free agent. If Claypool was in that free agent class, he's not. He would be one of the top guys, and you're going to overpay for him. So a second-round pick, to me, seems legit. Mm-hmm. Mohamed Sanu went for a second-round pick almost a decade ago now at this point to the New England Patriots, okay? So
let's not forget there was a market for him.
Yes.
You had to outbid others.
Correct. And I think that is why it ended up being the Bears pick.
Second. Yes, which is going to be a first.
Everyone keeps talking about wanting to tank. Well, now you're going to give Baltimore.
Yeah, but you still have another second at least.
Sure, I get it. But this is why tanking irritates the shit out of me.
Slow your roll. But I see where you're going with this. They need to do better to incorporate him.
What are you doing?
Maybe it takes more time than we casual fans know.
Okay, but how many times can you just say, hey, Claypool, run the go route? Has he done it yet?
Well,
I don't know if he has.
I think if you look over there and say, run the go route, they'll be able to cover it. But I see your point. I'm hoping, so what are we at? This was his third game suiting up?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, you'd want to see more by now maybe, but...
He had more of an impact in week 1 for him here than he did over the last 2 games.
Hey, well, we know the Bears pick is going to be a good one. So if you want a top flight receiver, you could get that. Or you sign a Juju Smith-Schuster and you have Juju, Mooney, and Claypool. That's a pretty good 3.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think let's let a little more time go. But I wrote it down too. That's not enough production. That's not enough attention for a guy that you should be trying to bring along in your offense.
Well, he'll have a good connection with Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, he might. So I have one more, and we already talked about it, but I just want to put a little twist on it. So the game-clinching interception, and I put, was that to Mooney, ? Okay. And it reminded me of something you talked about way earlier in an earlier episode of just how prior when they had Nagy, and a difference with Getsy is it's so nice to see that guys aren't in the same spot. Now, granted, they were crossing routes. Montgomery was headed more to the right and Mooney to the left. But the fact that we didn't know who he was throwing to, and perhaps Montgomery didn't know, that's messy. And it led to an interception, and it led to the game being over.
I see your point. I do. But I do think that Luke Getsy has proven himself to not be that bad when it comes to that type of play calling.
Well, okay.
In fact, there was even a play today where Justin Fields ended up throwing it away. But he rolls out to his right, and he has
all three levels.
Yeah.
I thought he should have thrown it to the back.
Yes.
To Komet.
I do
He was
too.
one-on-one, and if you put it in the right spot where only he can get it,
I did too.
it's
Again,
either a
though,
touchdown, pass interference, or nothing.
that was another one, though, that, a little bit of a hesitation. And that's what still frustrates me with Justin Fields is that you don't see the anticipatory throws.
Throw them open.
I watched a little bit I was watching Red Zone, but I saw some of the Denver Broncos Raiders game, and Russell Wilson threw a back shoulder throw to Sutton before Cortland Sutton even knew it was coming. I mean, the ball was in the air. And then he turns and it's there, right? Like, and he makes a beautiful catch. But, like, that ball was already coming out of Russell Wilson's hands. Like, you're not seeing that very often unless it's a deep throw by Justin Fields.
There was a point when, as Bears fans, we really, really wanted the Bears to trade for Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I'll take Justin Fields now over Russell Wilson.
I'm not saying
no,
that.
I know. I'm not even twisting your words that way. But let's just say there are parts of Justin Fields' game that you still want to see refined. You still want to see him grow. I think he's proven he's a hard worker who wants to get better. I think every NFL player wants to get better, but it seems like he's going to put in the time, take the coaching. That's one of the things we want to see keep improving. Yep. And it's unfortunate that, I don't know if it's game circumstance or what, but we're not always seeing that. Break time?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Plenty of ugly, though, too.
Why don't we have it take a break? I have at least one more bad. I don't think it's quite ugly. So I'll throw that one out on the flip side of these advertisements.
All right. All right, Hallis Huddle fans, Bears fans, we are back, episode 23. I'm Justin Onayemi, here with Rob Schwarz, breaking down the loss to Atlanta and going through the good, not a whole lot of that, the bad. We've been talking a bit longer on that, and we still have a lot of ugly to talk about as well. But before the commercial, Rob, you said you have some more bad, and I think I might too, but more ugly, so.
Yeah, so I don't think this can be put in the ugly category, especially for this particular game. But discipline, again, to me, has been an issue. But I'm going to put more blame on the NFL officiating crew than I am on the actual players. Because I am tired of the bullshit calls. I am. I know. I said I didn't want to be this person, but 14 penalties over the last two games. Combined, I saw this stat by Courtney Cornyn on Twitter. Combined, Atlanta and the Lions, 3. You're telling me that the Chicago Bears are less disciplined than both those teams? I don't see it.
So, I don't know. We talked about it last week. We'll talk about it again here now. The hits principle and penalties, you just kind of think if you have a lot of penalties, then you're not playing smart football. But and there were some pre-snap penalties today.
There were. Justin Jones.
I feel like Atlanta has this herky-jerky way of playing where they almost made me think they had false started a few times.
Yeah.
But anyway, do you think that all these penalties are mental errors? Are they getting, for holding, for instance, everyone's holding every time. We know this. But to be called, you're not letting go at the right time, or you're shifting the guy's body a certain way.
Yeah.
There's a way to get away with a hold, in essence. So are the Bears not playing it right, or are they unlucky? Or what were you going to say specifically about the officiating? Like, which one stood out? I didn't feel that way that much today.
I mentioned it with Kyler Gordon. I mean, that penalty right there was just kind of bullshit. I guess, too, it's also the fact that it's not necessarily that Chicago has 14. It's the fact that they're also not getting calls. So then I'm going to throw in, the not PI calls, which I've seen at least 3.
Today, were there any?
Today, I don't recall any PIs. No.
Okay.
But
late hits on
Justin Fields, I posted it. I didn't notice it live in the game, and I think it was because it was the last play, and I was just kind of out of it for the Lions game. But like when I watched the all-22, and I saw the way that they blew the whistle dead, the referee's standing with his arm up, staring at the play developing, blowing the whistle, and then you can count 1, 2, and then Justin Fields thrown like a rag doll.
Yeah, we talked about it.
I know, but
yeah, it was bad.
I didn't notice it until then.
So in this game, there was one where he gets sacked and his knee is on the ground.
Yes.
And then he gets blown up by another guy. Now, however, with the way Fields is, can you imagine if that other guy doesn't come to clean it up? He kind of gets back up and runs 80 yards. Now, granted, they should review and see his knee was down, but maybe it just wasn't down enough. But I thought that was pretty rough.
That was bad. And then the slide with the third to last play of the game.
He already kind of showed he was injured, too.
Yes.
They had just taken a timeout. He's blatantly holding his shoulder.
Yes.
I think you're supposed to be a little smarter at hiding your injuries, maybe. Because then the very next play, he gets hit.
On a designed run.
We're going to get into it. It's not ugly
I know. Okay. I'm sorry.
So I guess here, I'll go a quick one that is the transition of bad to ugly. I think it's right on that fence.
Okay.
I just felt like there were a lot of injuries today for the Bears.
Yes.
It was almost like a couple times the guy would make a big play and then he'd be out. There were 2 times that I recall that the refs stopped the game to take players off the field. I actually think that's a good thing. I did my short on Tua, and I think they should be taking these head injuries very seriously. But it was weird because it was like they called out Montgomery to come off the field, and I didn't even know he was on the field because I know it was Ebner.
I had the
run by Ebner.
Same experience.
So I don't know if there were 2 running backs set or if maybe he went off the field and then they saw him come back on and were like, wait a minute, you got to go check him. So that was kind of weird. But I just thought there were a lot of injuries. Kyler Gordon, possibly they say possible concussion protocol. Adams, I think at one point came off. Couple guys on the defensive line. I don't know. I just felt there were a lot of injuries.
Travis Gibson, I thought he was
Gibson,
done.
Yeah.
And then he ended up coming back out and played.
Okay. So I just thought there were a lot of those. I got another decently quick one.
Okay.
We already talked about it, but to go into a little more detail, Justin Fields runs a designed run. This is earlier in the game when the designed runs felt a little better. Scores a touchdown. Bears go up 17-7. Defense was playing okay at this point. And if they had come out and had a good drive and put something together, you could start to put some distance between yourself. And instead, what happens, Rob?
Cordarrelle Patterson does his best Justin Fields impression, then, like we said earlier, scores on the ensuing kickoff. It was
you want to give
92,
him the credit.
92 yards?
103.
It was 103?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize he was that far back.
Yeah. You want to give him the credit, but you were talking to a bigger trend of just Bears special teams play.
We've seen this. We saw the Khalil Herbert blocking issue against Miami, right?
Another pivotal, momentum-changing type of play.
Could have been the reason why they, could have been what led to a win had that not happened. We've seen muff punts. It's just, I think it's so funny because I literally just wrote an article this past week for Bear Goggles On, just discussing Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network, discussing his list of potential coaches, future head coaches. I think he had 11. It was like either 11 or maybe around 15 guys who should be on the list for 2023. Luke Getsy was on that list. Okay, guys that should see an opportunity in 2023, whether it's interviews or actually getting a job. And then he had a secondary list where it was like other future candidates, like people who are going to be there maybe 2024, 2025, 2026. Richard Hightower is on that list. The Chicago Bears special teams coach who was the coordinator at San Francisco, then came here. And in San Francisco, I remember when 49ers fans on Twitter was like, enjoy Hightower. He's not that good. We're glad to get rid of this bum. Because he left there to come here to coach the exact same position. And the only thing that I recall being good about him was that San Francisco ended up, I think it was a block punt, or maybe, it was a block punt on Green Bay in the playoffs.
Yes.
That advanced them.
That's true.
And it was that one game. But apparently, if you look at where they ranked in like DVOA and stuff throughout that year, they weren't good. And Chicago started out really well in DVOA this year on special teams, and they have come back down to earth. And
how informed is a list like that? I mean, to go from special teams coordinator to head coach, I mean, the notable one that's done that is Harbaugh in Baltimore.
Yeah.
It's not unheard of, but you have to have certain other intangibles and leadership that would make you a good candidate. And maybe he has those, and it's not showing up in the X's and O's.
And maybe there's guys out there vouching for him. You know, I'm assuming Pelissero did his homework and was getting insider information, but I just don't see it.
Pretty, and it didn't look pretty today. And
No.
that's a pivotal play that, I mean, you lose by 3.
Kick it out of the back of the fucking end zone.
Yeah.
Like, why are you even giving him an opportunity? This isn't the Devin Hester era before they changed the rules.
You noticed later in the game, Gill was kicking.
Yes, because
maybe Santos didn't have the leg.
But maybe you should know that ahead of time, right?
Maybe they know it now. I don't know. But it hasn't looked great. Didn't look good today. I have it as a very ugly part of the game.
I told you,
So
the fire's in there.
I got 2 more, but you throw one in.
I mean, where I want to go with it, I feel like this is just too much of an ugly one. The overall play calling today was just bad. So Luke Getsy's on that list, and should he be after today? I don't think so, because as good as his play calling has looked over the last few weeks, building off of the Justin Fields design runs and some of the even like schemed open routes for the wide receivers were really good. And then today, like you said, was there even a receiver open at any point that he wasn't outside of the pocket?
You have to be able to scheme open a Cole Kmet. You have to be able to scheme open a Chase Claypool. You have to.
And if your line isn't giving you enough time.
And there were times that there was time.
Lots of time.
And I don't know. I have to look to see if that's because they were dropping back 7 and everything was covered up. I don't know. I have the same thing on here. I have bad play calling. And here's something, too. Even when we've said a lot of the times he's had good games of play calling. But one thing I noticed as a pattern is they have very bad game pacing.
Yeah.
So, for instance, in the fourth quarter, I don't know the exact score, the Bears took quite a long time to make their move, giving Atlanta the ball with 9 minutes. Then Atlanta came and took almost all of that up.
Yeah.
And it was like sometimes the Bears' pacing doesn't seem right. And then lastly, and really it really showed itself in that final drive, but they put Fields in undue risk today. And I almost compare it to what Nagy and his regime did in that Cleveland game. It's almost as bad as that to me. The only difference being they had a whole week to prepare and chose to put this rookie in a horrible position. But this was almost as bad in terms of not adjusting to the in-game stuff that was right in front of you. Because the drive prior to that, it was clear, at least on TV, that he was already not well. And he went 5 for 5 throwing the ball
90.
And led them to a touchdown.
Yeah, it was like 80 or 90 yards.
Right. And you could tell he didn't want to run. He still ran, I think, twice on that drive. One was, I believe one was designed and one was a scramble. But it was very hesitant. And he was able to make the throws.
Yep.
Let's see. Like, again, the wins and losses don't matter this season, as we are well aware.
Yes.
So why not just on that last drive say, this is going to be his chance to do a 2-minute drill where he's in the pocket throwing. If he does it, you can notch it off as like, hey, this is something to build on. But instead, you call designed runs. He's shaken up. They didn't even go out of bounds on these designed runs. So you're chewing up clock. You had to waste a timeout when he's hurt. It was really bad. And I think.
So I would hope that he let them know that he was cramping up in the fourth quarter. So when we were seeing him and he wasn't looking 100%, he was cramping up. And he said he thinks what it was is, he's been playing outdoors for the last few weeks. And now you're in an indoor environment, so the atmosphere is different. He probably became dehydrated a little bit faster. It's a little bit warmer. And he didn't prepare his body enough for that type of atmosphere, that type of environment. But again, I would hope, because if you and I can see it on TV, even if he doesn't tell them, someone should notice, like, hey, you're looking a little off. Are you good? Did you tweak something? Something.
That's why I brought up the drive before. Because in times where he definitely would have run,
yes,
like the one to Equinemius St. Brown, he chose not to run and made the throw.
Yeah, typically he would take the run, put his hand out, and have ESB just do his little seal blocks.
There were a couple on that drive, I thought, where it was like you could tell he wasn't going to run. And I would hope we don't have more of an advantage watching on TV than all of the coaches, some of whom are talking directly to him.
Some people do say that if you're not, Luke Getsy calls plays from the sidelines, and some people believe that it's better for them to be up top so that they can see what's developing, where you don't have an all 22 film.
Right.
And maybe he has somebody up there that's coordinating with him, but he likes to be down there. He likes to be able to, get the feel in there and be able to like control emotions. And that's positive too.
It helps him in ways that he feels it's the right decision.
Right.
But here's evidence, and I should know the answer to this. I hope you do. They had to take a timeout on the sideline because he was either going to have to come out when he was hurt, or if you want him to stay in, you use the timeout.
Correct.
After that, did they call another design run, or was it a scramble?
It was another design run.
So that's all you need to know, that they knew he wasn't well.
Yeah.
And it got like 2 yards, 3 yards. I mean, it wasn't worth it in the end.
No.
Really egregious error, I felt, to the point where it's like, do you even care about this dude's well-being and development?
Yeah.
And I feel the answer to that is yes.
I do,
and they got caught up in the moment.
I do too.
But you got to make the adjustment.
And so that brings me to the fact that, and this is what I tweeted, this is what I texted to you and Bob, is like, I feel like not only is Justin Fields becoming a little bit too eager to run sometimes, I think Luke Getsy's now like pushing it a little too much. I mean, 3rd and 5, and they ran a design rollout run for Fields. Didn't convert because Braxton Jones didn't tackle. Now, I got to eat crow here because I complained about it. I didn't think it was the right play call. They didn't get the first.
Oh,
but on the very
wrong guy.
He did. But on the very next drive, when they scored the touchdown, it was basically the same play.
Well, he missed that guy, and the play would have worked if he picked up the right block.
Correct.
Today was a game without Khalil Herbert, and so we did wonder where are all those carries going to go, because a lot of them went to Ebner.
Yeah.
So if I want to say good, he had one good run where he didn't give up and like really grinded out 8 or 9 yards. Everything else looked bad or ugly from him.
Yeah.
And so I think that would have made Fields have to run a little more, which was what we feared coming into this. I mean, you knew Herbert's, I don't know, what was Herbert averaging touches per game? 11, 12?
Something around there. Yeah.
So those are all gone. We thought maybe you'd get a jet sweep to Valus. They did do one.
Was it to Valus?
I thought they did one to Valus. One was to Mooney.
Yeah, one was to Mooney. I recall that one.
I don't know if Valus had one. So there's one of 11 or 12 you have to replace. Obviously, Montgomery had, I think, 17 carries, and he was averaging around 11. So there's 6. But a lot of them, I think, went to Fields.
Yeah.
Now, you bring up 3rd and 5. And this is going to sound like a total meatball thing to say, but have the Bears run a slant this entire season? They must have. But
I recall one.
It's not a staple.
I recall one.
I feel like Mooney runs slants well. I feel like Claypool would run a slant well.
Yes. I think Valus would run a slant.
But you know what? We talked about Fields throwing into people's helmets and into people's hands. Maybe. Does he not throw the slant well?
It's possible.
I don't know.
I wasn't there like every practice to see like, are we trying to get slants in on the game?
I don't know. I mean, that to me,
I thought
you don't want to depend on his running too much.
No, you're going to get your quarterback killed, and we're seeing it right now.
And you want to be able to see if he can be a passer.
Correct.
And we both think he can.
Yes.
So develop it. Try it. He had I don't know how many runs he had. 15?
I don't know how many runs he had either.
And of those, many were designed. But I have one more ugly. Do you have more?
Going back, I wanted to touch on the last drive. I know you touched on it already, but you see your quarterback go out, get hurt. Whether the timeout had to happen or not, you just don't do it again. I don't know. It's just...
And he's a tough guy, and he's proven he's tough. Big, which is probably why he's not going to say to you, I can't do it.
Sure.
But he's showing you he can't do it.
Right. I mean, he had to be carted off for an X-ray after the game. Like, he's carted through the stadium. Like, he didn't even. I mean, could he have walked? Obviously, yes, but like, clearly, he had to go get medical attention.
I mean, do you think he's playing next week?
I mean, it's his non-throwing shoulder, so we've seen guys get slinged up. Trubisky was 1 year.
Is this the season
Baker
you want to?
Mayfield was 1 year.
You want to push a guy to play?
But the way that I understand how Matt Eberflus allows players to play is if the medical staff clears you and you're saying you're good to go.
So let's say Fields is 80%. I don't even know what that means. I never know what these percentages mean.
Sure.
But let's say he feels he's at, let's go 70%.
Okay.
In the grand scheme of it all, you're not making a push for the playoffs. If anything, you're making a push for the top 5 picks.
They're still going to play him.
But why not play Simeon at that point? Fields at 70% and possibility, and I hope they evaluate this as part of their decision, possibility of a re-injury or making something worse versus you just play Simeon for a game or two.
I mean,
I don't know. Well, anyway, that's not where I wanted to go.
Bad it is, I guess.
So I got one more ugly.
But
go ahead.
that injury isn't ugly.
Of course it is. Yeah. In game and if it has
Yeah.
season-long ramifications. But he was starting to get happy feet again and probably start to see ghosts. I felt like a lot of times, and I guess maybe he's assuming teams are going to make the adjustment, but he's become famous for these like reverse spins out of the pocket. But a lot of times he kept himself in the pocket to be sacked.
Yeah.
Which actually takes me to my ugly. So this is like a 2-for-1 actually. The Bears gave up 4 sacks today to the Atlanta Falcons. Do you know where the Atlanta Falcons rank coming into this game in sacks?
So in my mind, I feel like they're probably somewhere right around Chicago. And in my mind, I feel like Chicago is like 26th,
well,
25th.
Chicago is worse than you think.
Okay.
Chicago is 30th.
Okay.
Sorry, was 30th. I don't know after today. Chicago, coming into today's game, was 30th in terms of sacks. Atlanta was 31st. The only team worse than both of these teams was the Raiders. Well, I'll tell you what. Atlanta had 4 today. The Raiders had 3. The Bears had 0. So there's a very good chance the Bears are the worst team in the league in sacks. We talked last week. You pretty much need a whole new
defensive line. Yeah.
And a team that struggles still gets 4 on you.
Yeah.
Now, Field did throw the ball away a few times, which I don't know. I mean, it's very easy as a quarterback, I think, to throw it away and not take a sack. We've seen him take some that he shouldn't.
Yeah.
And those are extra hits again, so that was good to see.
But I also wonder, a lot of times I feel like he takes some that other quarterbacks wouldn't, and ones we know he shouldn't, because in his mind, he always thinks he's going to be able to escape.
Yeah. I mean, and he nearly has, and he has. A few of his runs were actually escaping, and we're talking breaking actual tackles, spinning out of them.
He's not an easy guy to bring down.
No, but they brought him down 4 times.
Yeah.
And
the pockets collapsed on most of those.
You'll have to tell us in the all 22. Is it the O-line? Is it the play calling? Is it Fields? Is it the receivers? Is it all of those things? But why?
It's going to be all of those things.
It is going to be all those things. It is going to be all those things. So,
but can I piggyback off that to one of my uglies?
Absolutely.
And I'm going to throw in a good with this ugly. Okay, it's kind of a weird one. Sam Mustipher again, just bad. And then the false start, and he got the false start. I think I know it's good then.
You had a good for him specifically?
I saw the best play from Sam Mustipher this year. His whole season. His whole season.
Switch him to the defense, right? Is that what you're going to say?
So, got a shanked ball that went way high up in the air.
Hit off the helmet. That's what it was. Fields threw it. It hit an Atlanta guy in the helmet and went way up.
Okay, so it was another helmet. I didn't realize it was a helmet. That makes sense on how high it got, though. I mean, it was like a doink. Like, the missed kick by Santos wasn't a doink. That was a dink because it barely hit. This was a doink. Kind of, I mean,
it was up in the air for so long that you're just like, nothing good's happening here.
But when the defender went to go try to intercept the football, Sam Mustipher just bulldozed him.
Nice.
And stopped the takeaway.
So had Kramer not been injured, would we already be asking for him to be in there? I don't know. He came in as an undrafted free agent or a 7th-round pick or something.
Yeah, he was. I think he was a
sixth or
seventh.
or an undrafted. I don't know.
He wasn't undrafted.
Okay.
He was definitely drafted.
He was drafted.
So
Okay.
sixth or seventh.
I think he was a 6th or 7th. Would we already be asking for him to be in there?
I mean, yeah, because of Lucas Patrick not being able
That's
to
true.
play.
I keep forgetting that he exists.
Because he's played, 3 games?
Well, he wasn't that great when he was in.
No.
And then it's like, wait till he gets to be center, and then it didn't matter anyway, and then he got injured. I think that was the game he got injured.
It was.
He had plays at center, and they weren't fabulous.
No.
So that's very ugly. So with a good mixed in, and one of my uglies, I tried to mix in a good. The ugly was just how they used Fields down the stretch, but the good was, hey, he had a drive where he went 5 for 5 throwing and led you to a touchdown.
Right.
So, well, there was more bad and more ugly, and the only other good is the draft pick. But I'm tired of saying that.
So I didn't get to do the Fields Focus episode last week.
Did you watch it but not do the?
I did. I did the grading.
Oh, so
you
had the grade too. You didn't tell me even.
Yeah, I just wasn't able to get the
All right.
podcast in. If you guys recall, 85 and up is elite grade for me. Okay,
He hit it exactly in
the 2 games.
Miami game.
Yes, he had 84 last week, or not last week. Now it's 2 weeks ago. The loss to Detroit, he had 80.
Dallas.
Yes.
Lost to Dallas was an 84, just under elite.
Yes.
Win again, or no, not win. Loss against Miami was an 85.
It's an 85, and then the loss to Detroit was an 83.
Okay.
So just outside of the elite grade.
This one,
I mean, I can't know for sure, but my guess is that it's probably going to be. It's definitely going to be under 83.
So you said 85 is the threshold to elite, but
Yeah.
what? So then under elite is
it's above average.
above average.
Yeah, you're still
Okay,
a
so
top
how
10
low can you
quarterback.
go and still be above average, or in the above average range?
Well,
Do you think this game was below above average?
No, I don't think it's that bad.
Interesting.
Just off the top of my head, I won't know for sure until I see the film and we see were their receivers open when he should have been throwing it instead of taking sacks.
There weren't as many notable drops.
No.
More of his incompletions
Although
might be pure incompletions.
I did joke about the Equinemi St. Brown
Catch.
catch for the first down on
Should've
third
thrown that
down.
a little more direct.
I was like, it was good to see him make a catch than not
Yeah.
drop it this time.
Well, he still had to run a little bit to get that
Yeah.
first, and he did. So
Yeah.
I thought Fields could have thrown that a little more directly to him, but it got the job done. So,
But yeah, I think it's going to be under 80 for some reason.
okay.
We'll see.
We'll have to see. So they have the Jets coming up next. Coming into this game, they keep talking about the 2021 quarterback class, which they say Fields is now showing himself to be the best of that class, and Zach Wilson has not looked good.
No.
Real ugly.
Killing our Garrett Wilson shares.
Yeah. So we'll see, but a lot of question marks.
No, they just lost 10-3 to New England, so Chicago has a chance to win this game.
Did you see how they lost that?
No.
So it was 3-3
I
with
saw that.
15 seconds left, and Jets had a horrible drive. They had many of those today, I'm guessing. They punted to the Patriots, and they ran back an 84-yard punt return touchdown, leaving just 5 seconds left on the clock. Then a really dumb, ugly play after that, but whatever.
But it's winnable.
Is it?
I mean, it is.
I know, but we said that for Atlanta.
But that
We
game was
said that for
winnable, too.
Detroit.
That game was winnable,
We
too.
didn't really say it for Miami.
But that game was winnable,
We
too.
definitely didn't say it for
And
Dallas.
they got crushed.
Washington was winnable.
Yep.
And
The
the
Giants.
Giants was supposed to be winnable. So, yeah, they're running out of these.
They've
You're right. Jets is winnable, but they're 6-4.
the key to this whole season was Justin Fields' development. But now those expectations are starting to change for me. I'm seeing the development from Justin Fields. I have confidence that I never really wavered on, that he's going to be the quarterback I think he's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But this team, and I know not all of them are going to be here, and even the coaching staff, they need to learn how to finish. They need to learn how to win a game.
Yep. So the Jets is an opportunity to do that. Green Bay should be an opportunity to do that.
Yes. They still have
Detroit again is an opportunity to do that.
Philadelphia barely beat the Colts on like their almost last play of the game.
Yeah, pretty much. So I don't know, man. It's just the other part that really bothers me, and you did say this already, but it makes it look like the national media was right.
I know. I hate that.
So I guess they were, but I don't know. Whatever.
But
it is what it is.
But they've also come around.
And then next season, we're going to still hopefully be running the House Huddle podcast, and it's not about moral victories at that point. It's about playoff positioning. It's about representing the NFC in the championship if you can. I mean, that's the level of expectation I already have, even though we have no idea what that roster is going to be. But
Brian Poles hasn't cut out for him, but he's got plenty to work with.
We think. And let's start seeing them show this on Sunday. So I luckily was able to still find a bunch of good, and hopefully each week you still have a lot of that.
You should have heard me in the car earlier. There's a lot more fun.
I mean, it's a good thing this wasn't a 4 p.m. recording.
Yeah.
This is, 10 at night now? Or
yeah,
coming up on 10 o'clock. So we had a little bit of time to come down. But
right.
It's starting to get a little bit same old story.
It is.
That was what my GIF game summary just kept being like, I missed
the last one.
I don't even remember. It wasn't my best.
Okay. But I hit on the other 3. And if you guys listen to this, it's fun. Like, if you're on Twitter, get out there.
I'm easing off of Twitter. I think.
Well,
I don't love Twitter anymore.
I
never really did, but
now you got.
I know. I want
Elon Musk and being able to buy
need to find another outlet.
Buy your blue check marks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not even in blue check mark range. I only have 56 followers. So
but you could still have one.
If we
pivot,
you $8. Yeah, true. Good point. But if we pivot to something else, maybe we can pick up. So
yeah.
All right, Bears fans, House Huddle fans,
please. Leave reviews where you can leave reviews. Leave comments where you can leave comments. I've been engaging with a lot of people on YouTube via comment lately. Some good back and forth, which I like. So do that and leave us ratings wherever you can. It helps the podcast grow. And we were able to ship out just today the photo print to Albert White Jr., so that's going to him in where he lives. I'm not going to tell you.
and then we will maybe do another one coming up here.
Yeah, we're looking to making that decision. So,
all right.
Till then, bear down.
Bear down.